There's obviously a huge topic right now with public lands being for sale, the big, beautiful bill. I want to preface this conversation with my Instagram feed is filled with dirt bikes and 360 flips, and I am not really qualified to talk about really anything besides frontside board slides and like wheelies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but you did a deep dive on this whole thing, and I would just love to hear your take on what's happening with public lands and what you think about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, like, shout out Danny Davis. I had to go to Woodward Copper with Danny Davis, and all of a sudden it's like he's in my head, you know? Like, I'm like, wait, should I do something about this? So I had to like actually do a lot of reading about what was happening because I didn't really get it. I mean, I had heard, my interaction was basically like, I'd heard about this big, beautiful bill, and then all of a sudden I started seeing people post about all this public lands thing. At first I didn't even realize they were connected, honestly. And then, so I started looking into it. And essentially what's happening is that the government still owns this land, but what they're doing is basically opening up the ability for the leasing of BLM land, Bureau of Land Management land, and Forest Service land for potentially like what is like mineral mining and a lot of stuff. And so, but the map that they're showing is actually like alarming. It looks like a fucking Verizon coverage commercial map. It's like, it's
great
like
analogy.
So much land. And a lot of it, you know, as we know, and has been going on in Instagram is like, you know, at first my original thing was like, I thought I was kind of hoping that Chad's Gap was going to be on it. And I was going to like buy it, maybe like try. I don't know.
Stan owns just the two mounds.
Yeah.
I own the takeoff and the landing.
It's actually Stan's Gap now. Those findings coming in.
Who is Chad? This is Stan.
But no, so like massive lands. And then I started to realize like, actually, holy shit, like a bunch of resorts are on these lands. You know, the ones I highlighted in the article were a lot of Mount Hood, like all of Mount Bachelor, all of Mount Baker, but like Alpental's in there. And there's sections of Alto, which actually like it could be cool if we can kind of, you know, strip Alto away from the skiers for a sec. But yeah, so essentially it's like, it's very unknown and like, what happens here. And the other kind of troubling part is that it's actually happening like really fast. Like honestly, by the time this episode's come out, it's very possible that it will have been voted on. They are trying to get it pushed through by July 4th, which is very soon. And that's kind of the alarming part because all we can really do is like call our senators. Like there is, I mean, you know, protest and just like obviously people that are maybe fearful of not getting reelected, they take this kind of thing seriously with the constituents. So the outdoor space has like a lot of weight to affect this, you know, and I think that kind of like speaking up and being diligent about, you know, showing that you don't want this is key because essentially, like, obviously, there's a number of question marks here. Like, can resorts lease their own land all of a sudden, or also like, could Vail come in and lease these resorts? And what's crazy is kind of like that's kind of the best case scenario if Vail were to come in and like lease all these resorts. That's like best possible case. Worst case is like they find some precious mineral in Mount Bachelor and fucking steamroll the thing, which like the other problem is like a lot of precious earth materials we get from other countries. So I think a big thing that they're trying to do here is like, well, let's just mine our own country for this stuff. But obviously it really messes with the watersheds and the, you know, the geography. And then of course they could, if they were leasing this land, they could kind of like fence it off. And so that's where we start to play into, which is more likely and more vulnerable, which like the ski area is like, that was kind of like a headline clickbait thing. But like really like the most vulnerable areas are some of the backcountry areas that are, accessed all throughout the West Coast. And Alaska is really the alarming part. I think that is not necessarily like the Chugach Range is like massively in this grid, and just places that have been iconic that we've all been kind of enjoying for decades. So it's sort of a scary, weird thing. And like, my take on it is it's bad.
That was, thank you for being a good, well-researched journalist. And with that, and I just want to preface with it's June 24th right now. This episode comes out July 9th. So if this information is irrelevant, forgive us, okay? This is just realize that go back in time before 4th of July. Hopefully you didn't.
But it's good to know. I think it's no matter what, it's good to like understand the sort of details of it. And frankly, like they're trying to push it by July 4th, but the way that I understand is if they can't come to an agreement, then it'll push. So July 4th is what the people that made this bill are hoping to do to kind of like make it happen. But let's say it doesn't. I think it can extend a timeline.
One point that I thought was interesting too, that is a point of concern, is the lack of transparency within the bill, right? They're not necessarily disclosing what the in-depth with what the plan is with the bill. So the lack of transparency is a major cause for concern.
Well, yeah. And like the other kind of, alarming part about the bill is just like how many things beyond the public land that it all, like, I don't really know how it is that a bill can have so many things that like the bill, like the land stuff is just one part of it. And that's exactly right. I think skeptics of people who don't think people who don't think it's as big of a deal, I think are under the assumption like, sure, this Verizon map that we're talking about is massive, but they couldn't actually lease all of this land. But I don't know. We just don't know. And that's kind of, the lack of understanding what exactly their goal is with leasing all this BLM and Forest Service land is relatively unknown. So it's like, it's just weird. But once you like lease up that land, I don't necessarily see that it would go back to Forest Service and like this pristine place. It just feels like maybe that land is kind of just forever being leased for, mineral extraction or whatever.
Yeah. I think that's all really good points. And, I just want to provide a little bit of like context with like, again, not super qualified to talk about it, but when I think about in my travels, right, I remember went to the Capita factory earlier this year and I was looking around at the mountains, surrounding the Alps, all surrounding the roads we were driving on. And they were telling me, I was like, oh, that looks like the most insane range right there. Do people ride that? And like, oh, that's private.
Yeah.
And then you point to something else and you're like, oh, do people ride that? Oh, that's private.
Yeah.
Oh, there's must be sick mountain bike trails up in there. Oh, that's private. And so,
exactly.
in one of the greatest things that we have here as snowboarders, as people that enjoy mountains and appreciate nature, especially in the Western United States that's less densely settled, is that you can drive your car to the middle of nowhere, go camping, and nature is just perfect, right? Like nature's ecosystem, it hasn't been fucked up by humans. The animals are dialed in, the water's dialed in, everything's in perfect symbiotic relationship. These few places that we haven't fucked up as humans are just, I think we can all be on board that they're sacred, right? It's not rocket science,
I think
right?
like within an hour of any metropolitan, you can be there, right? Which is also like insane. Like you could be in Salt Lake City and drive an hour and be camping, or in Denver, or in even LA, right? Mm-hmm. Like any of those places, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, the wilderness, it's something that we all appreciate as snowboarders or hikers or mountain bikers or dirt bikers or anything. The amount of terrain that we cover.
And hunters really hunters have been a big vocal, you got E-Jack, you got Scotty Lego out here like on the hunting thing, and like the senators all have to vote on this, so there's like been a lot of discrepancy, like, well, should I only call senators if they're, and again, this is maybe irrelevant if it comes out later, but it's like, really, you can call any senator because they're all going to have to vote on this thing. And there's key senators that we highlighted in our Slush article that like Politico had kind of like ideated as people they think are going to push for it. But, the other, part to add on to what you're saying, Chris, is like, we all get a little grumbly about the price of a lift ticket or the cost of snowboarding. And a lot of this backcountry stuff is free to access,
Yep.
So it's like that element of snowboarding that doesn't really maybe it costs you the gas in your sled or if you're split board and it really doesn't cost you. So it's like, that's kind of the fear is like they're potentially taking away the ability to access this land for free and snowboard for free.
Yeah, 100%. And so, with the bomb hole and us having kind of an opportunity to try to do well by this situation, we believe is important. We decided we got an extra big, nice burgundy snowboard. So we'll have that on bombhole.com. We're going to do a raffle for $20. We'll get you an entry. You can buy 5 raffles.
Yo. Can I double down on that?
Yeah.
Nitro board too.
Woo! Okay, what are we
Let's
going
make
with?
it. Double or
Alternator?
nothing.
Alternator as well?
Yeah. Let's go alternator. Because
Okay.
then you got men's and women's. So if
Okay.
a girl wins, they can go women's alternator. If a guy wins, they can go men's alternator.
Cool. Amazing. So yeah, bombhole.com. All of the proceeds will go to wilderness.org, which is a foundation that's set up to protect public lands. So that's something you can do if you want to. And also, if you don't want to, totally fine. It's just do what you can if you can, I think is a good way to do it. Stan, any other well-qualified journalistic thoughts on this?
No, and I think that's great. I think wilderness.org, I think Protect Our Winners does a great job of this. There's a couple organizations you can kind of look into that are sort of doing the grunt work, because there's a lot of us that are just don't really know how to get involved. And these people are have made it their lives to try and protect these lands. So that's great. I think that's awesome.
Amazing. How's Mount Hood right now?
Mount Hood's good. 2 public pipes. Seen Sleepy Stevens around. We got the Favas, Burton Week. We got Fat Gabe and Max Worthington. We got a little slush house. And it's great. We're having a good time. It's slush photo camp week. It's pretty all time.
How's Bridges looking in the pipe?
He's just warming up, okay?
Give it till day 3.
Yeah. He's more of a day 3 kind of guy.
Any of the pipe juggernauts chuck and roast in there?
Well, of course, there's the, you know what a good analogy of what's happening right now is the elite private pipe that happens at Mount Hood. That's kind of what happens if they take the land.